Assalamu alaikum. So today I want to talk about a topic that's very dear to me, which is our collective responsibility with the new media. Now, I'm not negating that the new media has resulted in a lot of positive effects for the people. For example, we have access to information faster than ever, and we can know about the news that occurred on the opposite end of the earth in an instant. But a problem with immediacy is that it sometimes, discourages fact checking, because the focus of the media portals nowadays is to publish news as soon as they come to it. Therefore, this really discourages careful thought and consideration as to the headlines or the articles itself, because the emphasis is on getting the news articles out as soon as possible. And this has resulted in many errors, and even though these errors are retracted sometimes, but oftentimes the damage is already done. Now, another effect of immediacy is that there's less care and consideration given to what goes into the article. So what happens is there are many repetition of the same old narrative, and the narrative that they focus on is the common narrative or the popular narrative, because this is what sells. This is what the readers want to see and want to read. You can see this emphasis on popular narratives in the coverage of issues such as Islamic extremism or terrorism, for example, or the coverage on African Americans. So what you normally see nowadays is less thought and less diversity in reports surrounding these issues. And Edward Said had already explained this very well in his book covering Islam. The Guardian reported that there is about 350% more coverage on Islamic extremism or terrorism done by Muslims as compared to similar acts of terrorism done by other ethnic or religious groups. So this goes to show that trends in media reporting has changed so much so that they tend to focus on one particular issue from only one particular perspective. And this is very dangerous because it then gives rise to stereotypes. Edward Said had pointed out this kind of emphasis and repeat of negative narration on Muslims in the cover by Time magazine. And on the cover was a picture of a muazzin standing at the minaret of a mosque, and he was giving a call to prayer. It was a completely innocent picture, but the headline for that particular cover was Islam, the Militant Revival. The question we have to ask ourselves is this kind of portrayal a fair, accurate, and balanced portrayal of Muslims? Now, what does the picture of a muazzin calling people to prayer have anything to do with Islam and the militant revival? So this kind of deliberate placement of the image and the words is done with a purpose, and this would generally lead to negative stereotyping of an entire group of people, and in this case Muslims. And Muslims aren't the only victims of this kind of negative stereotyping. For example, African Americans also suffer from this kind of repeat narration. If you look at the issue of the Central Park 5 case and how the media reported on the case, the media was harping on the issue from a particular perspective. For example, the words that they used to describe the boys were wolf pack, and they repeatedly emphasized on their broken homes and the background that they were in, being supposedly involved with drugs and having no father figures. This was the kind of emphasis that was done by the media, and it turns out that these boys were completely innocent, and the convictions were then overturned many years later after they had served their sentences. And I remember one very prominent journalist, he had described the Central Park 5 in such terms, and he said, the enemies were rich, the enemies were white. So this kind of words used to describe the boys that were alleged to be involved in this case would really suggest that they were in fact guilty, when in the end it was proven that they were not. Now, another effect of the new media is that it has led to a rise in clickbait and sensationalized headlines because, as I explained, they operate on what the public likes, what the public wants to read, and what we want to read is something that catches our attention. This is what media outlets tend to focus on nowadays because they really rely on the clicks in order to continue their operations. Therefore, we see headlines that are sometimes perhaps an exaggeration of the truth or something that is provocative so that it draws us to read the article. There was an article on the online media and it said, "Our duty to fight. The rise of militant Buddhism." And the picture underneath the headline were a picture of monks in prayer at a temple. This is a deliberate placement of a picture and a provocative headline. And naturally, when I read the comments by the readers, many of them were very unhappy with the headline and the image because it suggested that Buddhism is the cause to the violence that was happening in Myanmar. So you have to ask yourself, is this what we call an accurate, fair, and balanced portrayal of the issues? Of course, we should always tell the truth, but the truth can be told in a more considerate, responsible, and ethical manner. Now, as much as we should make the media accountable if and when they publish these type of provocative, misleading articles, at the same time, we need to ask ourselves, are we contributing to the problem? Do we read these articles and share it even if we are not sure of its accuracy? Oftentimes, many articles are not even published by reliable news portals, but we don't take the time to consider the accuracy and we just share the article because that is what catches our attention. At the end of the day, we are contributing to the problem by perpetuating the confusion of knowledge. If we want there to be a better representation of ourselves, our people in the media, then we also must look at ourselves and conduct ourselves in the appropriate manner. We should not participate in the spread of confusion in knowledge. We need to be better in order to see the positive changes in the community. Therefore, we should not participate in the spreading of fake news, and we should not contribute to the problem by acting in a manner that is uncalled for or adding fuel to the fire by reacting in a negative manner and being hostile to people of other races and religions. Because this is irresponsible behavior and its effects can be catastrophic to the society. For example, you see a rise in hate speech, not just in Malaysia, not just in our surrounding countries, but all around the world. This shows that the issue of hate speech, particularly on social media, is an increasing concern because social media allows us to say whatever that we want to say while hiding behind a mask and being in the comfort of our own homes. So even if you were to see an article that you disagree with online, the best way to respond is not by violent words, it's not by condemning the other person in hostile terms. No. If we want to see other people represent us in the best manner, then we must be the ones to represent ourselves in the right and proper manner. So if we want to change the narration that is common and popular against Muslims and Islam, then the best way to do this is not by being hostile on the new media, no, but it is through our proper and right action. It is in being the best that we can be and conducting ourselves according to the guideline that's been provided in the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, before I end, I just want to give a reminder, not only to you, but to myself as well, that when we use the new media, we should really consider how we use it. Are we using it ethically and responsibly? Do we want to be part of the solution, or do we want to be contributing to the problems? As Muslims, Allah has already outlined the right code of conduct for us, particularly when dealing with people from different ethnic or religious groups. Now, in the Quran, it is mentioned, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in a way that is best. If we want to see a positive change in the world, then the change must come from our own selves. But have we ourselves changed? In order to do this, it is already mentioned in the Quran that Allah will not change the condition of the people unless they change what is within themselves. So at the end of the day, the responsibility is on our shoulders to do the right thing, to act and to be better.